Audacious rebel.
Because religion is the slave master's number one tool. So he doesn't want you to learn about yourself. He doesn't want you to know your correct birth time. There's astronomy, which is like how far the sun is from us, how far the moon is from us, how far this nebula is, how is a black hole created. That is astronomy. What solar system are we in? Where is the North Star so I can guide my way? That is a very mundane, general, and necessary science. But astrology is the movement of these planetary bodies that each have energies. Astrology is for wolf killers. Astrology is for shepherds. It's not for sheep. So the longer you are in religion, you are easier to guide, and now we can harvest your energy.
Audacious rebel.
Growing up, my dad did a little bit of gardening. And every January, without fail, he would buy this small yellow book called The Almanac. It was like this guide that told him the best days to plant crops based on the phases of the moon and the movements of the planets. I must have been about 8 or 9 when I picked it up myself and I started flipping through it. And somewhere near the back, I came across something unexpected: horoscopes. I was born in October, so naturally I checked out Libra, and I remembered thinking, wait a second, some of this actually sounds like me. It wasn't something I took seriously at the time, but I never forgot that feeling. And as I got older, I kept hearing people say things like, oh, she's a Virgo. They're very organized. Scorpios? Deep, deep waters. Watch out for those Geminis. And I'd laugh. But I also started to wonder, is there anything real behind these patterns, or is it all just fun and fluff? Because when I look at history, at how ancient civilizations tracked the stars, how farmers planted by the moon, how leaders timed decisions with planetary alignments, it started to feel like maybe they were tuned into something that we may have forgotten today. So I'm not here today to preach astrology or convince anybody of anything. I'm simply here to ask, could there actually be something to this? Do planetary movements, cosmic rhythms, affect how we live, how we feel, even how we behave? And if so, how? And to help us open this conversation, I couldn't think of anyone better than today's guest. Oyi Sun, also known as the Cosmic Jedi, is a spiritual strategist, a coach, healer, and teacher who has lived transformation from the inside out. Born in Washington, D.C., Oyi's early path took him through some hard and real places, including incarceration. But in 2001, something shifted. He began immersing himself in Tai Chi, Tantra, astrology, and other sacred systems. By 2004, he had already earned a black belt and the rank of Sifu. And after his release in 2008, he didn't just rebuild, he rebirthed. Now based in Atlanta, Oyi helps people from high-performing executives to everyday seekers unlock their blueprint and align with deeper purpose. Through his platform, thecosmicjedi.com, he offers powerful tools that, like I Ching mastery, astrology training, and prosperity strategy classes to help others reclaim their inner magic. Whether he's talking about freedom, frequency, or the laws of life, this man brings codes, not cliches. And what I respect most is that he speaks not just from study, but from embodied wisdom. So today, we're honored to welcome him to the path of the audacious rebel. Oyi Sun, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, brother. Wow. That's a lot to live up to right there. Thank you.
Well, I had to abbreviate all that I discovered. If I had to read everything, that would have taken up the entire show. I hope you forgive me for doing so.
No, that was excellent. That was excellent. Thank
You know, let's start at the root, Oyi.
you.
For someone who has only heard of astrology through memes or horoscopes or zodiac stereotypes, what actually is astrology? And when you talk about planetary influence, what do you mean by that?
Mm. You forgot to tell them that I was a storyteller. So I'm going to start similar to the story of you and your father with the almanac.
Right.
You know, most of us melanated folks, we grew up in church
Mm-hmm.
and we know of the Bible, right? And in the Bible or just in religion, it tells you that God created everything. And so me, I'm a person who practices gratitude almost religiously. And one thing we have to be grateful of is our breath. Because in the Bible it says God made man, God breathed into man breath and made him a living soul.
Yep.
And so you had to have lungs to be able to operate the breath. So when you think about like what type of entity would even think about the formation of lungs that would work
Mm.
without me even thinking? You're breathing right now. People who are listening to this right now, your lungs are working without you having to monitor them, micromanage, anything like that. Your eyes are blinking when something gets close. You scratch your scalp when you have a little irritation. Your toes twitch when your feet are too cramped in the shoes. Who made or what made all of this perfect system? The body you live in is perfect. The hairs in your nose, they stop dirt from getting into your lungs. Who thought of God? God, you thought of everything? What? What about sex and women? And it's so good. And with men, it's so good. God, why did you put so many nerve endings right there in the erogenous zones? God said, because I've thought of everything. Well, in the Bible, when people turn to Psalms, and this is a King James version, Psalms 19, it said, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork.
Mm.
Now, I'm going to start with the last word, handiwork. When you go and see a nice chair, you say, wow, look at the handiwork. Wow. Like the hand that crafted that chair.
Right.
Ooh, look at or you look at a BMW or Mercedes or Bugatti and you say, ooh, look at the handiwork. Ooh, look at that ring. Anything where it's just like, wow, you knew that it took something to make that thing. You was like, ooh, the handiwork is a representative of the artist behind the art.
Yes.
You see a woman shaped well, a woman sees a man with muscles. It's behind it. What's behind? It's the work behind the handiwork. And it said, the heavens declare. Declare means to always announce the glory of God. The glory. How many
Mm.
times have you just looked up at the night sky and just have a feeling of peace and bewilderment and awe and just be like, wow, it's so vast. The firmament, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at the firmament, showeth his handiwork. So if God put all this here to have this effect on you, that's just the outside effect of astrology.
Mm.
Now, the placements, there's astronomy, which is like how far the sun is from us, how far the moon is from us, how far this nebula is, how is a black hole created? That is astronomy. What solar
Mm.
system are we in? Where is the North Star so I can guide my way? That is a very mundane, general, and necessary science. But astrology is the movement of these planetary bodies that each have energies like a doctor or a professor in a university. And the goal at a university is not just to learn, not just to see the girls and the boys, not just to go to homecoming, but to graduate. You need astrology to graduate life. Because these professors, the sun, you are Libra, that's the professor of love and willpower and strength and intelligence. It's being expressed in the curriculum of Libra. So you are a very fair person in your dealings. You pull for the underdog. You understand and can teach people about justice. This is the energy of Dr. Libra and Dr. Sun. And then you have all the other planets, Mars and Jupiter, and they each have a role. When you go to a school, whether it's elementary school or college or high school, you have different teachers teach different things. You didn't go into biology class and learn how to play basketball. You didn't go into the gym and learn history or social studies. Each of them have, just like what marketers call a niche. Each planet in your astrology chart is a niche to tell you specific things. And the planets let you know too that they are still under the commandment of the Creator. They are obedient. They are cyclical, just like us. We inhale for a certain amount of time. We exhale for a certain amount of time. It's a cycle. Women have a menstrual cycle almost like on the clock regularly, right? So if you can tell and follow these cycles, that's what your father and uncle were using the almanacs for, to tell you it's the best time to put down watermelons, to put down herbs, to put down peppermint, to do whatever. Look at the great white bear. What does he do during the wintertime? He hibernates. Where are the salmon that he likes to eat? They're not coming. It's not that season. Why do we like the sundresses from the women? Because it's summertime. It's a different energy. They show you different sections of your life, and they express and lay paths out. And I like to quote the famous J.P. Morgan, the creator of Chase Bank. He said, millionaires use accountants and billionaires use astrology. And so this is one of the ways I look at astrology is it's the university to help you graduate life.
Two things that I got from your utterances, Oyi. I got a degree of personification as it relates to these planetary bodies. It's as if you give it personal life. This is Professor this one, this is Professor that one. The other thing I got is that there's some influence, how you mentioned me and Libra, and what I would be because of what might be my sign. But I'm aware of so many other Libras like myself who is totally contrary to what I think Libra should be. Just no way. So how does that identify with the variations of persons that may have or share similar zodiac signs?
Just like, how tall are you?
I'm 6'3".
And on your birth certificate, it says that you are a male man, right?
Yeah.
Me too. I'm 5'8". Am I supposed to be 6'3"? Are you supposed to be 5'8"? You're a man. I'm a man. Why are we so different? Like, why aren't you 6'3"? Oh, brother, why aren't you 5'8"? Right? And it's because God loves variety. God loves variety. He wants to keep it spicy. And so also, when you do not recognize your teacher and you are not on your original path, it can look kind of janky. It's like you could change a tire with a jack, or you could try to lift it up yourself. You know, that person trying to lift up the car themselves and change the tire, They just aren't aware of the things that the other person who is using a jack to easily jack up the car. He's using a to take off the lug nuts, right? So we're all made differently, but there's also different aspects of us that contribute to what we would call our sign. I'm working on a book right now called You Are Not Your Sun Sign. Because when you go to the university, what's the most important thing? You or the professors? You. I'm the one that goes to different classes to meet different professors. So my sun is in Taurus, but my Venus is in Gemini, and Venus is the professor of relationships. And my Jupiter is in Libra. And it's in my second house. So Jupiter is the planet of expansion. So I love relationships. So a lot of times in astrology, people only want to deal with one of the professors when there's actually 13. And so if you were to come to or if a woman were to approach you and she'd be attracted to you and she say, I really like your shoulder. And you would say, okay. And then she was like, oh, your shoulder is so amazing. And you'd be like, well, I just got a haircut today and I just got a shave. And she was like, yes, but I really love your shoulder. And you was like, yes, but I also just got a PhD in metaphysics and such. And she'd be like, yes, but your shoulder is so wonderful. And you'd be like, and I got a new pair of Stacey Adams and I got these new socks and I got a pedicure. And she'd say, oh, your shoulder. So people who only look at the sun sign are just looking at one piece of the entire thing that made you. Look at a NASCAR race or a Formula One car. We all are Formula One cars. When the car pulls into the pit stop, how many people come to that car to get it in and get it back out? It's like 18 people. Like, it's a person on every tire. It's a person with the Gatorade. It's a person changing the steering wheel. It's a person with the gas. It's a person telling everybody what to do. That is how astrology works. It's not just one person. And
Right. So this ideology, or what is bandied about in pop culture, you're a Libra, you're Taurus, that is really deficient. What you're saying, there's no way you could use just that to identify the influence and the impact of the astrology.
Right. And remember, some people resist who they really are. So you might be someone who fights for justice, who might be very fair, and then you may meet another Libra who's stingy and mean. Well, look at what kind of life they're living. They're not an audacious rebel. They're not.
And then, of course, then you have to look at all considerations like our conditioning, our culture, and the environment we grew up in, our parenting. So then all that plays a part. Now I'm starting to wonder if these factors, like our conditioning, our parenting, how our formative years and how it was shaped, if this plays a more integral role than the planetary bodies themselves.
The planetary bodies help you become free. I'm just going to say it like that. We as Black people understand slavery from a personal experience in America and all over the world. There have been white slaves, there have been Jewish slaves, there have been children slaves, women slaves, but all slaves want freedom. And the less you know, the easier it is for me to put you in slavery. In America, slaves were not allowed to do what? Read this Bible or learn to write. So we had no literacy. So we had no way to gather information, scientific information about ourselves. Astrology frees you. Why would the slave master want you to get the truth about yourself so then you could be free and not dependent upon him? A part of slavery is to make the slave really visualize and imagine and buy into, I need this master.
But sometimes I wonder if the slave master was ignorant themselves. This is something I used to think all the time, because as much as you would look at the slave being deprived and ignorant and deficient, to me, any human being that desires to be a master over another is in himself deficient and is a slave or ignorant of something.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, there was two slaves. one willing to be a slave and one willing to govern another.
Mm.
But this is, you mentioned something though. You spoke specifically about black people, and now I'm starting to wonder if this sort of science is specific to black people or just to humanity on the whole.
The slavery part or the astrology part?
The astrology part.
We were the first to study the movement of the stars. It's our science. Just like we were the first to plant vegetation. We were the first to build monolithic monuments to different deities. We were watching stars, and the Dogons were drawing maps inside the cave in total darkness. That's scientifically proven now, tens of thousands of years later, that inside this dark cave with no way to look out, deep in the cave is an exact image of the sky at different parts of the year.
Yeah, serious.
So science is now like evidence, just like in a trial. Like when I have evidence, only a fool, is going to duck when the truth is thrown at them. Or only the slave master is going to hide these situations. I want to hide this truth from you, that these bodies have been studied by us for centuries, not just a few years. It's innately in us. It's innately in us. Like at certain point, we weren't born with the mustache. I came out babyface just like you. Now look at us. If we don't shave, we'll be out here woofing, right? That's because the DNA is evolving all the time. Why do we have to keep getting a haircut? Because things grow. Our cells change, but the cells are attached to these heavenly bodies. They're influenced by these heavenly bodies. If you don't get a lot of sunlight, your skin can wither. If you get too much sunlight, you can get cancer. So there's already evidence that these bodies, some women have their menses with a full moon. Some women have their menses on a new moon and anywhere in between, but it's still cyclical. So we have the evidence of how these bodies work with us. The thing is, I have turned it into a personification system because I'm here to teach lots of children about this, because I realized that what if my father would have taught me this when I was 12 years old? Where would I be? I was 32 when I started studying astrology. So now I'm in my 23rd year of studying astrology, and I say, I'm still learning. But what if, so now when I meet someone who's 19 or 20, I'm giving them a head start because I want them to avoid going to prison. I want them to know when is the best time to do this and when is the time to lay back. I want them to know when is the best time to get into the stock market and who is this particular partner and what are the signs that always tell the truth. Remember, that's what I said about the planets. They always tell the truth. So, and we have a curiosity about human nature and relationships because we require partnership in order to grow. Just like a plant can't grow by itself. It needs soil, water, sunlight, and a human. Sometimes it doesn't need the human, but because things in the forest grow by themselves.
Yes,
but it still needs elements. And when a human comes in, if he's the right human, the relationship flourishes even more, right? And so we have to we don't have to, but people who I reach in contact with, they're very curious. Astrology is for the curious. It's not for the satisfied. If you are satisfied and just like living your life and it's okay, then astrology is not for you. But if you're very curious and you want to know about yourself, and especially if you're an entrepreneur, because the only way you really can be true with yourself, the example is the blood type. When you go to the hospital, if you're an O negative, you can only receive blood from an O negative person.
right.
So it's important to know what your blood type, right?
As you talk there, as you mentioned the blood type, two things you mentioned that I want to speak about. You mentioned the blood type, and I had this book, Eat Right for Your Type. It doesn't mean to say you could eat anything, anybody could eat anything, and you'd live. But of course, if you eat a particular way based on your type, then you would not just live, but you would epitomize, you would be walking more fully into what you are. You mentioned something about the cycles with women and the moon. And immediately I reflected, and in my younger years, we had this neighbor, and he seemed to have had some kind of mental imbalance. So at the times he would be normal, and there are times he would be half naked in the street and talking his craziness. And I remember my dad saying, he functions with the moon. But what was amazing as I grew older, you recognize that the moon, the word for moon is lunar, and he would have been considered a lunatic. So, of course, I would have wondered how did they come up with the term lunatic
Mm.
that is also aligned with the word lunar, which means moon. And to me, that was just something. But I want to go back a bit, Oyi. When I read through your bio, one thing that stood out was your time spent incarcerated. And what I'm trying to understand, honestly, is how that man became this man. What shifted? What happened in that space or after that redirected your path so radically toward leaning towards purpose and cosmic work?
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I was incarcerated for a short period of time, only 13 months. I had already graduated from college with a degree in professional history. I was already a black belt Sifu in Tantra and Tai Chi. I had already retired from the drug game and criminal activity. I was already a master mason.
Hmm.
I was already a Rosicrucian. I had already been initiated in the Order of Melchizedek. I had already been initiated in the ancient Egyptian order. I had already been initiated into the Tantric Kriya Jyoti Society. I was already a full member of the Shindao Dragon Phoenix Temple Monastery.
Hmm.
I was already meditating. I was, as I say, I was already doing God's work.
Okay.
And God had another plan. I was on probation and I went to a hearing, and me and the judge did not see eye to eye, and the judge activated my sentence illegally. And I was like, I don't understand. Oh, I'm being done wrong. Oh, woe is me. What is going on? And I started to meditate more. I was like, well, guess what? You don't have a job to go to tomorrow. You don't have you don't have any entrepreneurial goals to accomplish tomorrow. You might as well get back and work on your spiritual and wait for the answer. And I had also been rejected by the dean of education at North Carolina A&T State University. She asked me, why did I want to go into education? This is probably the answer. I wanted to graduate with a degree in elementary education because of the amount of drugs I had sold to mothers in the past, in my early
Wow.
20s. And I knew I had a lot of karma. And I was like, well, the best way for me to pay this karma off is to go and teach in the elementary schools as a black man, to show these black boys and black girls that there's another way, but also be very relatable, because I knew some of their parents were still buying drugs from people like I used to be. And she told me that basically she was kicking me out of the education department because I had felonies. And she said, you might as well just go back to history, because I'm not gonna sign. I'm not gonna sign for you to be a teacher in North Carolina. And that day, brother, I became very angry. Now, most time when angry black men get angry, they want to strike out and like do some dangerous things and tear some things up. I wanted to build a school, and really, that's what I said to her. I'm gonna build a school on your ass. And I didn't even know I meant it. The words were already out my mouth. It was just like when you cough and you see the food going out your mouth and you're trying to catch it, but it was already gone. And I was like, I'm gonna build a school on your ass. I was like, who is that talking? And it was the real me had been woken up. I didn't know I was gonna go to prison 9 months later. I didn't know that. I was just on probation. So I graduated in May. I'm in prison in July. But in my mind, I got to build this school because she's wrong. And I started refining my craft inside those walls. And I had already been trained in creating nonprofit organizations, and I already had a name for the school I wanted to build, One Village Academy, because the old proverb says it takes a village to raise a child.
Right.
And I knew that in my childhood, there was a missing village for me. And there were different things like astrology wasn't there, meditation wasn't there, eating the right foods weren't there. And I wanted all of that included at my academy. One village where we meditate together, we play together, we entrepreneur and do business together. We can create a Black Wall Street together. And that was the driving force going into prison. And then little did I know I was going to meet some very solid men there who were very wise. And yeah, what people think about incarceration is not necessarily factual, because if you haven't been and you haven't seen for yourself, then how would you know? Everything's a rumor, right? Do I believe that all Black men should be released from prison? Oh no. Do I know that some Black men are in prison unjustly? Oh yeah. However, I also know that God has a plan for everyone, and this very short stay was a part of God's plan for my development that would be able to now, 20 years later, uh, give me such a broad range to be able to speak to and motivate from a real life experience. So a lot of people go into, the bad you goes in and then the reform you come out. I was very reformed when I went in, but when I came out, it was very, very polished. And it wasn't, I didn't pick up any of these things inside of prison. I just got my body in shape. I refined the plan, and I went more into my creative visualizations. And it was like when I was also a master Reiki healer before I went into prison. And so I was doing healing to the brothers in there because the healthcare was not so good. And when I came out, it was, oh, wait, the big lesson that I learned in there is everybody's in prison. Some people got walls and some people don't. Because I was telling them, I was just like, yo, they kept, because I was new there. They was just like, oh, you're only here for a short stay. What's going on outside? I said, the same thing that y'all are doing in here. I said, some people are trying to be righteous and some people are stupid as hell. And some people are just wasting oxygen, and some people are trying to better themselves. The only difference is they get to control the level of when they wake and go to sleep. I said, there's really not much difference. And it was funny that when I came home, and even till today, I live in Bali as well part-time, and I still see that this is still the case. 20 years later, this is still the case. So many people are still in prison. And so me once I started studying astrology and human design, I realized that I had the keys. And so now when I teach people, I'm trying to throw them the keys. I'm trying to toss them the keys to their Mercedes. I'm trying to toss them the keys to whatever the vehicle is that they really need to be riding in, which is their purpose, right? And I found so many people who said, I can't find my purpose. This is the
Right.
challenge. I can't find my purpose. And I was like, it's right here. It's your north node. What's your north node? And I was like, wow, it's the professor of your spiritual destiny. You have a professor
Mm.
of love. You have a professor of relationships. You have a professor of how you think. You have a professor of how you expand. You have a professor of restrictions and honor and integrity. But you also have a professor that shows you the direction that you're supposed to be going, which is your spiritual purpose. And so that was when I started dedicating my life and using all the tools, all of my criminal background, all of my customer service experience, all of my logistics into dedicating my life and time here on the planet for people to do three things with your purpose. Find it, which is easy, then repair it, and then follow it. A lot of people don't know about steps 2 and 3. They just know, oh, I got to find my purpose. I want to explain purpose as a vintage car. Let's say you like a vintage Stingray Corvette, 1967, and it's sitting under a tree and it's raining on the car for 30 years, but it's still a vintage Corvette. When
Hmm.
you find that Corvette, they may sell it to you for $200, and you may spend $20,000 to restore the Corvette.
Hmm.
What happens when you restore that Corvette? You ride in it and you feel so amazing. You are now in your purpose. You're in your vehicle. You're in your car. As Tupac said, all eyes on you. When you get into your purpose and repair your purpose, you're gonna learn things when you hit your finger with that hammer, or when you're trying to bend that metal and you cut your finger, or something gets in your eye. All of these things, a lot of people want to quit when it comes time to repair your purpose. Your purpose has been with you your whole life. You've been neglecting it. Anything you neglect in life that belongs to you will deteriorate.
Mm.
Remember that phrase? If you don't use it, you don't. If you don't
You
use it,
lose
you
it.
lose it.
Yeah.
Remember that girl that was doing all the splits as a cheerleader in high school, and then she got out of high school and gained some weight. Now she can't even touch her toes because she stopped tumbling. She stopped doing yoga. She stopped stretching. Same for the men who stopped running and exercising, and now he lost that talent. Oh, I used to do this. I used to do that. Your purpose is always with you, just like a rib cage. But are you working in your purpose? Or are you being led by someone else's part-time desire?
Right.
And so that's really what I'm on. And so that's kind of like when I saw that in prison and I saw that it was the same thing in and out, I was just like, I want to dedicate my life to helping people really get into their purpose and then let that lead them to their best life in whatever state that is. Because I don't want to just, your best life is money or your best life is relationship. Your best life is your best life. And what I've learned over doing thousands of astrology charts and now human design chart is God has a special plan for all of us. And he left clues. Success leaves clues. Everybody listening to that, right? Listen to this show, write that down. Success leaves clues. When you want to learn something about banking or trading or a great podcast, you look at someone who's already being successful and they leave clues. So these planets are the clues that God left for us. But the last thing was for those that have what? Eyes to see and ears to hear, which is why there's such a battle for your attention. How many emails did you look at today and didn't even open? That's right. They were battling for
Most of it.
your attention.
Most of it. No, I'm listening. I'm hearing you, and there's certain thoughts that because my mind runs like that.
Come on.
No, one of the things you would recognize, particularly from the church, when they speak purpose and whatnot, there's a sort of abstractness. Your better days are ahead of you. Okay, now tell me, what's the plan? How do I get there? Greatness is inside of you. Okay, but there's an abstraction. I'm hearing you and I'm hearing some detailed specifics, but it also sounds like a lot of work. Like, this is not something the average person can just walk into. Like, you require to be some sort of academic, some sort incline a particular way to have the understanding to be who I was designed to be based on what I'm getting from you.
That almanac, what were some of the things that man was planting in your hometown? What was he planting?
Well, at that, I lived in Trinidad, so would have been like peas, and okra, and yeah.
Was that easy? Planting peas and okra?
Well, I attempted the gardening thing in my latter days, but that was like a pastime and a hobby for me. That was therapy.
But
it was not easy.
When you looked out there and you saw people, corn, tobacco, cotton.
It was not easy because besides tilling the soil, I mean, that hot sun, then the insects, and you want it to be organic, but at the same time, how can it be? So it was never an easy thing.
So then why should something else be easy? And but here's the thing. Look how rewarding
yes,
were.
Of course. And it feels good. I remember when I picked my first cauliflower, or when I filled my basket with tomatoes. It just the fact that I was responsible for this.
But what about when you slice the tomato and put some salt and pepper on it?
Yeah. I did this.
Yes. It kept getting better. So for me, astrology keeps getting better. Once you learn the fundamentals, when you look at a farmer who's been farming for 20 years, he's like, this isn't hard work. This is just natural.
Yes.
For me, since I've been doing it for 20 years, yes, I can understand that some people would say, man, this sounds like hard work. Well, you got to look at how did you get so far off of your purpose? I didn't get, it's not my fault that you got off your purpose this far. Right? It's not my fault. It's not my
you're saying that, and immediately the thought that came to mind is the guy who is obese. It's hard to lose that weight to get back down to size. But he didn't see all that he was doing to become obese.
What are you, that's what I'm saying. Like, what do you mean? Like, you was eating pizza at 11:30 at night, 3 of them, and then going right to bed. Then you was getting up in the morning eating like 6 eggs and an omelet and a half a chicken and not going to the gym and not walking and on the couch playing video games. And now you want to say it's so hard to lose this weight. What are you talking about? What they say, hell is paved with the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to feel this way or whatever. Hey, sounds like a you problem, but when you want to change and when you want to come out of your comfort zone, you will find everything that you are looking for. As they say, if it was easy, everybody could do it. Guess who designed it? The same person who designed these lungs, the same person who designed these muscles, the same person who designed the firmament. He designed these challenges so we could learn more about ourselves, so we could be strong and righteous. This planet is not 100% strong and righteous, and it will never be. The righteous is something you have to work for. And if you want righteousness, if you want the top tier in life, then the only thing separating you from that is you. There's no one.
Something as well, OE, this is something that happens as well. When you put in that work, there's a degree of reverence and respect that you have. I see people posting quotes here and consciousness and memes. And sometimes I'm a bit disappointed because I know they just saw something somewhere and they just copied it because there was no work involved. I maxed out so many credit cards on books. I would study every day, get up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and study till 4 or 5. there is a work that there's a degree of respect that comes because of the type of work that you would have put in to get there. So I think the whole, like they said, the goal is more the journey than the objective.
Oh, and enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
So that's so crazy that you said, anytime somebody uses the word journey, I think of one of my favorite books, The Alchemist. Have you read it?
Yes.
The Alchemist was supposed to come into my life before I went to prison. My friend kept telling me, he had studied in my same martial arts and tantra school, same teacher, Grandmaster Sunyata Saraswati, a black man who brought tantra to North America. That's another story. Tantra
Hmm.
was not in North America until a black man brought it here. That was my teacher. And he had got the book, The Alchemist, from my friend. But my friend kept talking about this book. And I was like, let me read it. Let me borrow it. He was like, I don't have it. I let Sunyata have it, and he hasn't given it back yet. This is a man who reads a book in one day, no matter how many pages. And
Wow.
and he has kept it for weeks. The day that I went to prison, the book of the month club was The Alchemist. It was a big old poster, like bigger than a screen, with The Alchemist on it. And I read that my third day there in one day.
Hmm.
And in The Alchemist, there's a part of Santiago has a spoonful of oil, and he's going around, and he's not supposed to spill the oil. And when he comes back after this journey of going around this palace, he has the oil, and they ask him, they say, what did you notice? And he hadn't noticed anything, which means that his awareness was so focused in on one thing, he didn't really appreciate the journey of what was in the palace. And then he said, go around again. This time, look at the things. And he went the second time around, and his awareness expanded. And so I look at that as astrology helps expand your awareness of your journey. It helps you, um, put a little bit of direction in the way that you want to go, right? And to realize as a passenger how great this ride can be if you are that great person too. But I've been riding around and aware of things, and it go left and not be the wonderful experience I want to have. But as soon as my awareness started opening and I started seeing possibilities that were better situations that I was in by myself, I started embracing them. Like you said, when the first time you read something about Libra, you was like, wow, this is very uncanny. This seems a little bit like me. But
Mhm.
and you noticed, you was like, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Being fair, fighting for the underdog, being just, being a social butterfly. There's nothing wrong with that. And now you can you start incorporating that into your own personal life. That's what I have done. That's what my students have done. And for people who say it's hard, my three favorite students are in Tampa, Florida. They have been with me since they were 10, 11, and 12. Now they are
Mm.
14, 15, and 16. And they were little girls that were adopted by a senior citizen couple from a um, very negative foster care situation where they were being abused. And now they're going to be millionaires. They,
Mm.
college is optional. They are self-sufficient. They know how to. Their awareness is so broad, and it's just amazing that what I have seen from these young girls over the last 4 years, that I really can't take any excuses from adults. Like,
Right.
and especially it's as hard as someone makes it. I had very good teachers, Sister Myra, Dr. Mitchell Gibson, other people. And so they simplified it for me. And I'm very happy that God gave me the gift of simplification. So I give it to people, where they can really chew on it and understand. But I start everybody off with the university because everybody knows you got to go to school.
Right.
So astrology is another school. You had elementary school, you had middle school, you had the School of Hard Knocks. Nobody talks about the school of hard.
You don't leave that school.
Is the school of hard knocks easy?
You don't
Hey,
leave
you
that
know,
school.
so this school here is but I always look at what is the reward? What's the ROI on this thing? What's the
Mhm.
ROI if I take a chance on myself? What's the
Right.
ROI if I teach this to 1,000 people or 10,000 people or 100,000 people? And I do relate with your pain when I see the people on the internet just posting memes just for likes, just for follows, and they're really spreading misinformation. And that's really the goal of the sinister that doesn't want us to know about ourselves past the surface level. Those
Right.
people who teach very surface level astrology and zodiac sciences, they are pushed. They are pushed. So you'll stay very surface. But remember that thing, 3 inches from gold. The man was
Mm.
digging, 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 digging. This is just too hard. I
you know,
quit.
Oyi, you don't just talk astrology. You walk it like it's part of your soul's GPS. What happened in your life that made you say, this is real? Was there a moment that made you stop questioning and start questioning and then start trusting? What led you to this?
I don't know if you want me to give you this simple answer or not. It might be too simple.
Whatever it is.
Money. The first two letters in money and the first two letters in moon are the same.
Money, moon. Okay.
And so moon is a part of astrology. So someone showed me a system of using only the moon to create two goals in my life for that month. So in 28 days, I didn't believe him. I doubt everything first. That's what you didn't tell everybody. He is a historically doubter. I doubt everything. And so I was like, man, this don't work because you can't use no planet to make no money. So she said, try it. And I said, my goal this month is to make $500 because I had just got home from prison and I needed some money. And so I followed it step by step. And at the end of the month, I didn't have the $500. So I went to her and I said, I told you. And she said, well, what did you create? Because we said $500 or something far greater. I said, well, I do have this website. She said, did you pay for it? I said, no, I built it myself. She said, how much would the website cost? I said, they were going to charge me $1,200. I said, and I've already made $200 already on the website. I can make $200 a month. She says, would you rather have the $500 or would you rather have the website that you can keep making money? And I shut up and I said, teach me. And that website and that money that was coming in was proof that this system worked. And so I continued on that path to explore deeper and deeper in learning about cycles. And when I learned about the cycles of the moon, that really is even how you met me. That's even how I left the country and went to Bali. It is even how I grow mushrooms. It is how I have had all of my success since 2008 because my awareness of the magic of the moon to help me make money and others. See, it wasn't just a one-shot deal because then when I showed it to somebody else and they was like, wow, I made 1,000, I made 300, I helped my relationship, I got a new apartment. I was like, wow, if we're just using just one planet, what if we use the other 12 and use them correctly? And that's how I started walking with all of the planets because I'm a Taurus and Taurus rules money. And I like buying my friends nice presents. And women, they like nice things. And I want to go eat the finest of foods. I'm not a skinny guy. And so I knew that money was the budget for me to do more of God's work. And that one day I think this is probably like October or November 2008. And ever since then, I just pushed all my chips up on the table. I've been a risk taker, of course, a long time, but I knew that if you bet big, you win big. And I've bet big and lost it all and came back and bet again. But I made a smart bet. And this bet is continually turning over and over and over and opening doors for me and letting me in rooms and providing benefits that I can't measure, bro. I cannot. And I can't take credit. I can only take credit for the awareness, but
Right.
and because it's too vast. It's too vast. And I give it the analogy of a drug dealer. Nobody can make all the money 24 hours a day. You got to go to sleep. Like you don't want all the traffic. That's how the blessings are. It's the opposite of all the traffic. These blessings be coming sometimes. You just have to go to sleep. You can't even catch them all. Like you can't catch every portal that opens up. You can't catch everything the way that you would want it because you got so much that you've already accumulated. Because astrology pays in compound interest. So if anybody studied Napoleon Hill or J.P. Morgan or the Rockefellers, you want compound interest versus just regular, interest just sitting there or your money just doing nothing. And that was one of the things that was first. That was the money. That was the finance. And then the romance was second. I started studying my parents' birth charts. I'm from a very dysfunctional family. I guess I should have put that in my bio. My mother and father started fighting when I was 6 years old. I've been kidnapped more times than somebody on TV. And they finally got a divorce in when I was 12. And when I first got into astrology, the only birthdays I had were my parents and my siblings. And I missed my brother and sister. That was the burning thing at the very beginning, even before the money. I missed my brother and sister. And because we were separated. They were raised by my mother, and I was raised by my father. And I said, what if my father and mother would have had astrology? So I started studying my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, along with my chart. And I started noticing what was the problem? What was creating the friction? Like why was there so much domestic violence in my household? And how could my father as a man have went another way to make his household more fruitful for the growth of his children and a family unit? So when I say One Village Academy, it's inspirational because of my upbringing, because of my own childhood trauma. I've used astrology to heal my own childhood trauma and many others. There's many others out there I don't even know. My specialty now, a lot of people come to me for relationships and come to me for money using astrology. And I'm about to teach a course, a master class. I'm about to teach a monthly master class for each zodiac sign on money, like for the rest of the year, starting with Taurus. But my specialty is spiritual destiny and family. How do we repair the family? How do we repair the first village and make it so our children have far less trauma than we saw coming up? Does that make sense?
Understood. Of course, it's very important. That's foundation. Family is the first thing. You know, Oyi, a lot of people appear unaware about the depths of astrology. Then in many circles, particularly religious ones, it is condemned. I know there are verses in the Bible that seem to speak against the practice. I personally am sometimes confused since at times I see contradiction. I mean, you look at the period of Eid al-Fitr, the Muslim festival, it is determined by the moon. When the moon is sighted, as Eid. In Christianity, the wise men were guided by the stars. So, but what do you think is the root cause as to why there is this inhibition where astrology is concerned?
Because religion is the slave master's number one tool. So he doesn't want you to learn about yourself. He doesn't want you to know your correct birth time. He wants you to live a general life like a sheep. Astrology is for wolf killers. Astrology is for shepherds. It's not for sheep. So the longer you are in religion, you are easier to guide. And now we can harvest your energy. The energy that you give your boss on your 9 to 5 is like the wool that they're getting off of the sheep every time to make money off of them.
I
So the
like that.
longer you go in the blind about astrology, the more wool master will shave off of you. And then you'll grow it back and then bring it back to him by yourself. He doesn't even have to put a chain on you or call you a slave. You will voluntarily give away your most precious energy that was gifted to you by God. What I say is they want to keep you out of certain parts of the body of the Bible when God was talking about the talents. He gave one man 5 talents, gave one man 3 talents, and gave one man 1 talent. And he came back and said, let me see what you did with your 5 talents. And the man said, I've multiplied my 5 talents. And God said, oh, my good and faithful servant, to you I am well pleased. Now think about it. God, who made the lungs, who made mustache and made sex, is well pleased with you. You know you about to get a raise. You about to get some kind of quantum raise. He goes to the guy who had the 3 gifts. He had multiplied his gifts. And he was like, I'm well pleased with you, my good and faithful servant. And then he went to the guy that had 1 gift. And that guy hid his gift. And God said, get out of my face. Get out of my face. You don't even deserve. Get away from here. He was shunned by the Creator. These gifts that they were referring to are these planetary energies that are in you. These are your location points. When you go driving in a car now, you look at GPS. You get in an Uber or wherever you're going, they're looking at a GPS, global positioning system. GPS really stands for greatest possible strategy. Your greatest possible strategy is your birthday, your blood type, your eye color. This is your greatest possible strategy. This is the formula for winning. That's what the formula is. And you will be rewarded by God, not by religious leaders. There's religion, religious leaders, and God. Well, read in between the lines and get to God by using your gifts. Where's your Jupiter? Where's your Venus? Where's your Mercury? What is your Saturn telling you about yourself? What is your um um Pisces North Node telling you about your girlfriend or your boyfriend? These are gifts and talents that you're supposed to multiply like manna from heaven. So it's very, the Bible is very Masonic anyway. It's written it's very codified, but the Bible is also one of the greatest astrology books ever written if you know how to read it. And it only takes just that curiosity. Remember who I told you this was for? This is not for the non-curious. This is for the audacious rebel who's outside the box.
It's something. I mean, we just getting started, Oyi, and already an hour's already gone. I probably just ask. I have so much more to ask.
Maybe
But
one more.
regardless of the time, I'm going to ask at least 2 questions. I need to have answers for at least 2 more. Critics often dismiss astrology as pseudoscience. Recently, I listened to this guy, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was explaining the falsity of all this. How do you respond to that? And is there any scientific, psychological, or quantum science that support the claim for astrology?
I have to say first something about Neil first before, because he's a paid actor. Let me just say that. An actor memorizes their lines. And when you pay them, they say the things that the payee tells them to say. He's necessary because so many people are getting quantum, scientific, spiritual evidence that astrology is real. So now and with Black people, they didn't send a white scientist out to try to debunk astrology. they sent a black actor who's married to a white woman who they can control to try to sell you this look to say, don't look at your freedom. Don't even try it. Because, and everyone who debates him is an actor too, because as a scientist, he has to do one thing first before he can run his mouth. He has to do an experiment first to see if it's real. See, there's three ways you know something is real: evidence, experience, and reason. He hasn't given it 28 days yet. He hasn't tried it. He's ignoring it. So God bless him. But he's not a representative. The evidence is in yourself. It's just like if you go to the gym and better yourself and get faster and heal your body, do you need to produce evidence to other people that the gym was good for you? Or can you just look at me? For me, I say look at my passport. That's what I tell people. My evidence that astrology works is all those stamps in my passport. Because I know somebody on your show is listening right now who wants to travel. And we use astrology to pick the best places in the world that give us the best healing experiences, the best money, and the best relationships. And most of the time when we have these results, we don't write them down so they can be quantifiable. We share them in stories like I'm sharing right now. If I was to quantify and write down all of the evidence that I have in my astrology research in 22 years, I wouldn't be able to do interviews like this. I wouldn't be able to shave. I wouldn't be able to brush my teeth because I'd always be writing. And so the evidence is, like I said, is only for those who are looking. And the naysayers, some people love eating pork. And I tell them that pork creates certain diseases in the body and causes high blood pressure. And they don't listen. So what am I supposed to do? My job isn't here. I'm not here to convince people anymore. I'm here to guide those who desire to be guided to their own personal freedom. The best masters in the world always guide you back to yourself. So when you look at the most enlightened people in the world, you ask them how they feel about astrology. But look at their track record. I'm not going to ask a person who hasn't really accomplished much in life. Neil deGrasse has not really accomplished much as far as his contributions to the Black family or a village or a tribe. He has built nothing. With his astronomy science and his cosmic sciences that he uses, he has built nothing. He has just become a very highly paid actor. So that's how I feel about
You know,
this.
we definitely got to do a follow up to this because there's so much I yet need to understand about astrology. You know, but before we close, I want to give you the floor. If there's one thing you wish society truly understood about astrology, about cosmic rhythm or human potential, what would that be?
Hmm. Hmm. Harry Potter. In the first Harry Potter movie, Harry Potter was unaware of his fortune. He thought he was just a lowly stepchild who had nothing and he had to take second hand me down clothes. But when Harry Potter got on his path to study magic, he was shown his treasures. And he had more gold than anybody else at Hogwarts that he was unaware of when he was growing up.
Mm.
I wish everyone in the world knew about astrology, that all of the planets are your treasures. All of the planets answer to you. You don't answer to the sun. Oh, I'm a Taurus. I'm a Libra. No, 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 no. That Libra sun answers to you. That Taurus sun answers to me. That Cancer sun answers to that person. The planets Mars, Moon, Jupiter, Neptune, they answer to us, and they want to give us treasures on treasures on treasures if we would only ask. That would be my wish for a society, that they would know that one thing is true. If you know that that one thing is true, then you would start investigating and allowing your curiosity to expand, because who doesn't want to find their treasure? No matter what you do, if you go to work on a 9 to 5, or you want to go out on a date, or you have some goal that you want to accomplish, it's because you want to win at that particular goal. Why did you start Audacious Rebel podcast? It was a goal. It's a treasure now. You're creating IP and content that can pay you forever and ever and ever. But it came out of your willingness to let your curiosity expand. So that is how I would make a wish for the world, to know that astrology is the safest, fastest path to opening up your treasures of us all applying our knowledge of self. What I know about me is what's valuable to you. What you know about you is what's valuable to me. If you don't know anything about you, then you don't bring much value to me. So when people are knowledgeable about themselves, they bring so much more value to the table. The food tastes better, the water is better, the air is cleaner, everything, all the experiences are at a much higher frequency, as they say. People talk about frequencies, but they don't want to talk about astrology. What are you talking about? Each planet carries a certain frequency. So if
Right.
you're saying, oh, frequency this and frequency that, it's just like, are you going to put your foot in, or are you going to go out into the deep waters? Now, I would wish that everyone would realize that you're not going to learn so much about astrology at the shore. You're going to have to walk out a little bit and get you a good teacher. I really wish people, if you really wanted to know about astrology, you're either going to get a good teacher or you're going to get a good guide. Like
Well,
if
I'm glad you mentioned that because for those who feel drawn to you, to your work, and who resonate with what you've shared today, how can they connect with you and learn more or work with you directly?
wow, so many ways. I would like people to do the easiest thing and pull out their telephones and send me a text message and text me the word love. And that's the easiest way to get in contact with me. The number is 404 999 4251.
That's
Just
the number I got. That's the number I got.
you have that number too. You have lots of numbers. I have, but that's the love line, right?
Right.
And that way it lets me connect with people. They can connect with me. They can visit me at the Cosmic Jedi, and cosmic is spelled with a Z,
Hmm.
.com, thecosmicjedi.com. And I think that if they really want to, let's have a deep dive session, then coming and letting me show you in your own numbers. Let me show you what your birth chart has to say about you, where your treasures are hidden, where your spiritual destiny is at. You also can find me, if you're ready to go a little deeper, you can find me at the Cosmic Dojo. That's also with a Z, and dojo is Dojo. The cosmicdojo.com is the membership platform where I train Jedis, because we need more Jedis. We need more sorcerers. We need more people that are consciously aware, emotionally mature. These are the things that we personally need now, and these are the things that I'm offering. And so you can find me at the Cosmic Jedi on Instagram. You can find me on different platforms. And my email is thecosmicjedi@gmail. So if that's the fastest way to find me.
Well, most definitely, I would include those website and that number on the description below. So those who didn't hear it, they could see it on the description. So family, you heard it. Today wasn't just about astrology or planetary alignment. It was about remembrance. A reminder that we're not random. We're not disconnected. There are rhythms at play, cosmic rhythms, that may be shaping our behaviors, our emotions, our choices, even the direction of society itself. My hope is that you walk away from this conversation not with answers, but with questions, better questions. Questions that challenge the programming, that peel back the taboo, and that give you permission to explore the deeper intelligence that has always been guiding us. If something here sparked your curiosity or made you feel seen, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode. Talk about it. And let's keep the conversation going. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you're listening on Spotify podcasts, leave a review. It helps us spread this message to more seekers, more rebels, and awakened minds around the world. So stay curious, stay sovereign, and as always, stay audacious. My brother, thank you.
Thank you, my Brent.
Audacious rebel.